did a video yesterday, and I'm just gonna say off the bat, I'm not attempting to make some, flashy, easy access video for YouTube here. I don't care. I don't need that. It's not my job. It's not my money. But I do keep up with all of it. I've played with a lot of top tier people. And if someone chooses to watch the video, if someone wants to hang out, if somebody wants to play, team up, whatever, awesome. That's great. I'm not playing games with people. I'm just being real. Basically, the motivation for the video yesterday was that Exclusive Ace, who is basically the biggest YouTuber in the world. There are a few that are pretty close, but he's the biggest YouTuber in the world for, like, maybe a decade. I mean, these games have been going on for quite a while now, and he's been up there for quite a while, about the tips for beginners. And I understand that there are certain things, like, say, that I would put in a video that are not easy access, any audience, whatever. That's great. But still, as much as I like Exclusive Ace, that stuff was really not that helpful. And basically, my point in last video, which I am attempting to augment here, is that the original there were a few critical points. One is that, like, whoever you are who plays this game, first off, there's an 18-year-old ESRB type rating that says that because of the content, the general atmosphere, everything, that if you are younger than that, you should not be playing it. But that's the exact opposite of what happens. And so when you go in to play this game, anybody, any age, whatever, your player group is going to be a complete mix. So when people are talking trash, when they're absolutely awful, when they're incredibly good, who knows? The second point was that no matter what happens in that environment, unless you're playing on a high-end PC, a high refresh monitor, a either elite controller, which will still be junked, or a accurate mouse and keyboard, your experience of this game is going to completely depend on your system, hardware, controller, input, everything, because it is definitively not the same game, as well as network connection. And the primary thing out of all of that is that if you go into a World Wide Web lobby over the internet, it should be common sense to anyone that how is this thing calculating? I mean, you have like millions of calculations happening at any point in time on a limited team because you have positions, velocities, guns. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And the thing is that until if you are not on a local area network with a direct fiber optic type LAN communication using high refresh systems, it is not the same game. And the thing is that now it is a it's a when these games originally started, it was very obvious when there was delay, desync, all these other things. And what they've done over the years is that they mask it so that it seems to be a more polished product. And what this masking does is that it basically makes it hard to tell. So, not even going to touch that. Whatever. Um, it is the difference in certain situations that are no, and this is just so important. In certain situations that are at no fault of the player in a game that they have purchased, you are looking at the difference based on external ISP internet, local console versus PC, refresh input, everything, between a 0.3 KD and a 3 KD. That monumental gap in your performance, stats, and interaction with the game environment is just incomprehensible. So, and I will personally back that up. It's incomprehensible. It has been tested for over 10 years in any game environment. The stuff that these guys do in development, as to what's actually happening in the game. And I'll back that up here in a second also, if anybody happens to watch this. So, while this is not meant to be like super in-depth and super technical or whatever, this is the second part, an augment to the thing yesterday, which has to do with what does the person who's new at this game need to know? Why are they playing it? Do they care? You know, that's a whole separate thing. Why are you playing it? Do you care? And that's like skill-based matchmaking. All these people are, if anybody's played the game forever, all these people are like raging. Who cares? Like, I mean, like literally and I mean, that's said loosely, because certain people do care because of that exact issue. You have people who make nothing, who pay $70 over holiday for their kid who's 8 years old to play this game with their friends. And you have people who enter into public lobbies who are making millions of dollars per year. You have tournaments, you have worldwide stuff, and it's not just this game, there's an entire online gaming community. And that makes an entire just craziness of what the hell is going on. What are any of these people doing? It's not. What is the frame of reference in any of this? And so again, this is nothing for a top 10 tips for beginners type thing, but it is the reality of it. And you know, basically my point is that when you go to join, you have they're trying to reduce down. You have no idea who you're playing with. It totally depends on who you are. This is why they did all this skill-based matchmaking stuff to begin with, in part because it's also equally just completely scammy. But you know, the thing is that you don't know who you're playing with, and your point of entry into this environment is completely biased on a 0.3 to 3.0 level. No joke. Of your hardware, internet connection, the server performance, and your input on the game. So that if you are playing on a fiber optic local area network on a high-frequency, high-performance server with a mouse and keyboard level input, you're 0.3 to 3 KD. You're talking about 10 times the performance on any first-person shooter or any game really whatsoever. I mean, if anything is involving an online environment. So whatever, you don't know your level on these games until you are actually playing in a direct 1v1 type environment. And as a side note, the thing that masks that and makes it confusing is that it is so positionally based. That the point where you are seen in their system is not what you are seeing on your system. And when they shoot on their system is not what you are seeing on your system. And so this is no trivial thing. You get new people. I play with new people and people who've played for 15 years all the time. And honestly, they're 50-50. Some of them are completely oblivious to the universe. And some of them know exactly what's going on. And certain people have innate common sense where they go, something is wrong. It's because there is. So, whatever the case, that was a large point of the last video, and it's too much for a beginner's tip thing. But the bottom line, again, is that if you are a person who has, for anybody who plays this, number one, you have no idea who you're against. There's a vast discrepancy of people. All of the conflicts, animosity, fighting, trash talking, whatever that happens in these games is such a just random mix of people. And two is that you have no idea what level things are at until you are actually in a local area network high performance system environment. And so much that has to do with the controllers. And so I went over some stuff in depth on the video and the controller thing yesterday that there is no $300 controller on the planet that can compete in genuine skilled combat with a $5 mouse and keyboard, a free mouse and keyboard. That is why there is aim assist. That's why there's this total thing in the community. So whatever. So if you're some person who sits down for the holidays to play this game on a PS4 Pro, you're at a literal like 50. I mean, you're at 50% performance. So whatever. And some of that yesterday basically boiled down to all the things that you don't know about that have to do with frame rates, targeting, aim assist, the positions of the players, the bullet velocities, how that's being converted by the system across the internet. It's just a mess. It's a literal mess. And what that basically boils down to, that I didn't say anything to yesterday, was that part of the reason they wanted to go, and again, I'm not trying to be super convoluted here, but anyone who has ever used a real gun, a standard baseline type range is a football field. And most of the Call of Duty maps were based on a less than football field range, 100 yards, a little over 300 feet. At which point, in that distance, bullets in real life from virtually any gun, once they leave the barrel, appear to hit pretty much instantaneously. It's not truly instantaneous because you do have travel time and a minute amount of environmental factors. But at the distance of a football field, if you were standing at one goal to the other, which is a standard Call of Duty small size map, and this is very important. I wouldn't say it if it wasn't important. It was virtually instantaneous. And so a system was put in place. It's called HitScan. And even though HitScan is not a blanket thing, even though people present it to be, HitScan can be modified. HitScan basically meant that when you saw something on your system and you shot at it, it pretty much landed instantaneously. They could modify it. They could say the moment you hit, there's such and such delay, and we're going to calculate it against theirs or whatever. And what that did was that produced a hard wall of system versus system frame of reference in shooting. Now, and there's nothing wrong with it, it's something that Battlefield did for years. To make it a more enriched, complex environment, they do a thing that is called basically projectile-based projectile ballistics. And, whatever. The problem with projectile ballistics, and I mean, I'm the biggest proponent, supporter, whatever you want to call it, of projectile ballistics in the world, is that it becomes a quagmire of desync between people on their systems. So, whatever. Again, there are people who do courses on this stuff, at the IT development schools across the world, where they do know what they're talking about, and they do have textbooks, and they do have stuff that they can show you the calculus-based, Calc 1, 2, and 3 based, derivative-based curves between action, response, delay, and everything. And that's nothing that any normal person is going to know about. But it is used in game development. So when these Call of Duty people are some of the most elite in the world. And, whatever. It's still a mess. But, the thing that my point here in doing the second part of this dumb video, whatever. You're just immediately, I have a chat message here that's some bot type junk that's following things, whatever. Half the stuff on social networking is completely fake. Half the e-girls are fake. Half the gaming media stuff's fake. It's just awful. It's ridiculous. But, anyway, to the point, this is the augment video. It's like 5 in the morning or something. And, the whole premise here was that there are, anything that I just said for the past 15 minutes is never going to make it into quick tips for beginners. But there is stuff for quick tips for beginners that is important, that is not being told to people. And the one is that, first off, you do not know who you're playing with. It's an entire gamut of people. It is a social environment, so take that into account. 2 is that you do not have fair footing whatsoever until you're on a fiber optic LAN with high-end PC software, because it is a 10-factor difference in performance and response on the game. 3 is that, and I may be like subsuming some stuff here, but 3 was basically that you need to practice on your hip fire on your guns, because whether you're a PC player who needs to get accustomed to your mouse sensitivity in your keyboard, or you're a controller player, which is much more difficult, that needs to adjust your dead zones, your sensitivities, whatever. All of that can be done via hipfire. You can set up a hipfire mode with bots or with zombies or whatever, and learn your motions, your sensitivity, your positioning, everything, without the secondary dynamic of the ADS stuff. And until you do that, until you're comfortable, and there is a real reason. I don't know if I can show this on here. I need something that has a map. If you, any of the battle royales on console, when you see the map and you're attempting to look at the map from overhead and ping the stuff, you can tell that when you go to move your stick, that it is swerving and not landing on target. And the main thing to get out of that, which, again, is not meant for somebody who's just like picking up a 2-second video, but the thing to understand is, what is the history of dead zone nullification? What is the reason that this thing existed? The reason that there are dead zone numbing systems in the software is because the controllers, one, have horrible technology that cannot handle much on the central axis. 2, the sensitivities are all over the place and break. And it results in this thing called, even straight from the factory, controller drift. That is just, it's totally invariable. Your console, your system, your controller, it's horrible. And that is right at the bullseye of targeting. So I can't... I'm getting on a tangent here, and I didn't really mean to be, but when you are literally going to target a bullseye, if you're using a controller, virtually everything you do to hit the bullseye, like a target at a bar, is like being drunk. It's like literally trying to aim drunk. It's absurd. A mouse does not do that. So all this aim assist stuff that they put in is, and you hear complaints one way or the other, oh, we don't have it, or we do, or whatever, is because of this horrible controller technology. And I'm just going to be blunt. Anybody who ever watches this ever, it's all garbage. These games, you need to ask yourself, why do I play this? What is the point? And is there anything to gain from it? If there's nothing to gain from it, then what are you doing? Why are you investing your time in it? And, then it gets down to, well, easy dollars, cheating, YouTube views. What does that amount to? That's like, I'm not going to sit here and do a social frickin', whatever. It boils down to the day that we can implement virtual training that is an analog to real life, where we can get some action, have some fun, and learn in the process, will trump any garbage that is ever put on this stuff. And there's a reason to do that. It is proven that simulations, games, whatever, are essentially good for us mentally. And, the closest thing to my awareness that has approached that is called Onward VR, which a lot of the military guys play. Battlefield's Project Reality level stuff that is still not VR, if it could be made VR, is incredible. That produces this giant discrepancy between kids playing with toy figures in a sandbox that, no offense, are essentially worthless, and people attempting to enter into a virtual reality immersive type environment that is essentially no different from a dream, a vision, a simulated VR military training. And at that point, if you say, well, would it be beneficial for the military to have a simulation-based VR? Yes. In every way imaginable, it would be beneficial for the military to have a simulation-based VR. But does everybody feel like being tactical and serious to the level of, in a real military environment, having to sit up? If you go, and this is just the entire point, if you go into a military, if you're in a true military environment, and I'm not picking sides, I'm saying, I will say that it is inevitable that war is part of the human condition, and to my opinion is beneficial and part of the human condition. Whatever the case with that, would you go into combat if you have had some kind of preliminary training is going to be benefit to you, and these immersive type trainings are beneficial, but in any real world environment, you are going to literally be sitting there silent for potentially days. All this stuff that these people hate in these games, condemn, whatever, skulking and prone and whatever, it's absurd. It's literally a mental dysfunction. Because in any real world environment that matters on any real level of scale to anything biologically or in the universe, you would ultimately end up literally potentially camping for days. You establish territory, you establish geopolitics, you establish safe locations, medical facilities, you establish, you literally will lie there on the ground for days. Period. So whatever, people don't play the games to do that. Way off on a tangent here. But anyway, the point of this was, what was the last video? Which was that, you know, the first off, the environment. Second, the technology and the delays versus LAN. Third, learning the hip fire to get your controllers and stuff down. And basically, roughly speaking, I can't remember exactly the last thing, was knowing the range of your guns and their capacity. And basically what that boiled down to is, if you look at the absolute smallest, most popular map in the game, Nuketown, if you look at the smallest practical range across a backlot of the map, your SMGs become virtually useless. The SMGs in this game are basically functional on the level of a shotgun. The shotguns are basically muted to the point of a handgun. The handguns might possibly outperform the shotguns, but basically they're all just so weak. If you are less than, and you have to see it on the actual screen and environment, if you are less than 30 feet, if you're more than 30 feet from an enemy, which is half the back of a Nuketown map, where you're like, I'm not talking about across the long side, the football field side of the map. I'm talking about the short side. I'm talking about a third of an end zone that is down on the frickin' dumb just corner with the swing set. If you are more than half of that distance, the SMGs are basically garbage. And, whatever. If you want to play like that, that's fine. But, so, and then as an augment to that, was that when you play this game, and again, I'm going to kind of toss this to the side, just a passing note that's not meant as a tip for beginners. But when you see people playing this game that have no visible or effective recoil on their gun whatsoever in any direction, and they're shooting, and every single bullet is hitting on point, they are 99.9% cheating. And that is because of automated. Zim is one brand, Chronos Max is another brand, or whoever else out there has produced this stuff, recoil control software that takes the input and nullifies, by putting artificial movements, the recoil on the gun. And the reason that I know this is because I have practiced with every gun for some 7 years in Call of Duty. I have looked at every minute amount of recoil and bounce and targeting and system in the games. And it is basically anybody who says that they're controlling. Now, I will say this. On a mouse, it is possible with very advanced controlling. And there are people who do this. Stody and Ascend are two of the best snipers in the world who can show you what they do with the mouse. They have a mouse cam, they can do it. Those people with a mouse can specifically learn the general recoil patterns of a gun and immediately, with a light touch of the fingers, flick it down and start controlling. But it is still not what these dumb controller scripts do. So when you hear people say, oh, you're using mods, hacks, they probably are. And that's even when they're big time. So, it's very hard to track. It's very hard to prove. But when you see somebody on a screen and they have a gun that should be kicking and it's going nowhere, that's not them doing it with sticks. So, whatever. All of that basically then moved on to, and this is the point of the video this evening. Should anybody watch this, about 29 minutes of me talking is the delay compensation versus the frame rates of the servers and stuff. And the bottom line on all of that is that on a anything other, if you want the real combat experience over the internet, if you aren't on a 60 plus hertz server with a 20 millisecond ping or less, with a 120 frame rate plus capable system on a 120, 140 plus level server, it's not even real. I mean, do your best, do whatever, but it's baloney. And you know, there's a real reason for it, because you can take, and this was the point of that last thing, and I guess I'm just going to go on in while I'm talking rather than it just being this boring screen. The biggest issue with most of this stuff is that, say, for example, when you're watching your favorite streamer play a game, what you see on one person's screen is not the reality of what is actually happening between the players. And so if you see somebody on their screen, oh, here's an enemy, boom, boom, boom.
Domination.
Okay, first off,
Take the objective.
if the gun is not going up, this is a very low recoil gun. And I think I have the stuff on here that is, yeah, this is all like max. This is like 7 levels of attachments. I can push my controller, I can modify my stick where it does this. But there are, generally speaking, okay, first off, if I'm in motion, first bullet is on point. There's no sight over bore, if you know what that is. There's no true, like, effective bullet drop at a range this short. You can see that even on the second and third shots, you're getting this bounce up, even though it may not even look like it. In order to compensate for that, while I'm in motion, I literally have to pull down the stick, like so. And that is, even just that basic thing that I just did on a few shots, is very difficult to do, because it's not difficult to do on a mouse so much on a gun this easy. It is difficult to do on a controller, because when you're going through and attempting to move and do all this, the same stick which controls the rotations is now responsible for being the balance point at weird angles for the recoil. So, I mean, I'm just going to be blunt. If you think people are doing that on a controller on a regular basis with guns this or more difficult, you're delusional. So whatever, they're using controller mods and input stuff. And the first thing that a cheater does to show that they are real is they start faking out all the stuff to show that they're real. You'll see like a hand cam, but you'll never see the cable that goes to the system. Be right back. So as a general side note, just again, passing note here, the only thing that I have ever used myself that is equivalent to cheating is I had a hip shot dot which plugs onto the physical surface of your display. You line up your stuff for the center of your display. You put the dot right where it would be when you go ADS. And then when you're running around, if you're aiming this way, it still has the dot exactly in the middle. And as you rotate around, it's glowing like a free laser sight. It basically gives you laser sight. I have not personally used that since World War II. I used it to train in World War II. And I guess it was ultimately very incredibly helpful. But I eventually got tired. It kept falling off the screen. And I decided that because of it being a little bit artificial, that I needed to handle it on my own and not use it as a free attachment. Because it was basically a free attachment on the hip shot dot. But it's still sitting here. I also have Chronos Max, one of the earlier ones. And I can tell you definitively that it effectively turns it to zero recoil on any game that it covers. So that when you're pointing here and you go to shoot, it nullifies it down to nothing. It depends on. I think some of them over time have not worked that well, but as a general rule, you can watch many people's videos. I'm not going to set it up. I don't feel like it. Maybe I should at some point. I have never once in life used a recoil control script in any combat with any person on the face of the earth. But I can tell you that it definitively cuts it down to be exactly like it's a laser on point. I mean, there's a little bit of give, but okay, maybe I should say it's a little bit of exaggeration, but it basically cuts it down to be like boom, 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 just like right there. So it's completely cheating. People do it every single fucking day. So whatever. Get the point again. This being an augment to yesterday's video was about the delay between positions.
Head for target location.
And so what I was basically pointing out, this is just not a very good map to do this. The markers disappear. Is that generally speaking, your sprint time is roughly 7 meters per second. Now I pulled up a stat on here yesterday where the movement speed was lower than that. Okay, 10.28 miles per hour basically turned into about 5 meters per second, if I remember correctly. But I'm just going to say between Modern Warfare, this Black Ops 4, and anyone's previously, there's really not a whole lot of difference.
Setting waypoint.
Technically, definitely there is, and to be accurate,
Head
you
for
would
target
really need to
location.
like hit it on the point. But roughly speaking, over a second of running, you're looking at like this much distance. And so when you're talking about the delay that is in a system or the frames or anything, you have a window
Marking rally point.
of something like that where everything that occurs over a second, 500 milliseconds, 250 milliseconds, 125, 60, back to 0, is all being modulated by the systems on the server refresh rates and everything. So basically, when you see a person moving from here
Waypoint mark. Move.
to here, that distance that they cover in a second on your system is being modulated, refreshed, and basically updated over this 1 second window. And when you have a gun that has a fire rate over a second, when you have a velocity over that second of arc, when you have server refresh rates, ping, everything, all that stuff that's happening over this window right here is actually a big deal because of the amount of space and the number of bullets that can be fired in that 1 second window. So all of the time, if this was not a big deal, there would be no reason to talk about it. For me, for whatever reason, on our server network, the experience that I have playing Modern Warfare or Warzone is atrociously horrible. I mean, if I was on a LAN network playing Modern Warfare Warzone, it would be a totally different environment than what I experience over the internet. On the internet, I have people that are not there that instantly appear, the guns firing, the muzzles flaring, bullets are hitting, and I'm dead. On ground war is the absolute worst. And I did not know that was what was happening with ground war. Ground war was on something like 20 or 30 hertz servers, at half or a third of any normal functional rate as defined by anyone in the gaming industry. And it was all the time. There would be somebody right here, they would appear, run over here, I'm firing, the bullets are missing, nothing's happening, and boom, 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 I'm dead, just like nothing. I cannot do anything. And that is not the case this year with Cold War. Cold War, whatever they have done, to me, they have done some kind of modification on the back end that is closer to Apex Legends. It is constantly doing some kind of minute reevaluation where it is giving me much more fair gunfights. And it is also because they have raised the time to kill. It takes a longer time over this window to shoot and kill someone than it did in Modern Warfare. In Modern Warfare, if this right here
marked for retrieval
is a 1 second window, the guns could literally kill in this here. Well, that makes no sense, because the delay of their position between them even showing up is even on a fiber optic internet connection up to here. How? So if you don't understand what that means, there are plenty of people who I can explain that to. And, you know, I say explain like, you know, I do know some stuff. I have a university degree. I have many years of IT experience and certifications. Whatever. I'm a digital computer and media graduate. When you see this window right here, what does any of that mean? And so this, I'm finally getting to the point of this video after 40 freaking minutes, is that what is lag compensation? What is delay compensation? Now, for many years, what this has amounted to, and everybody is being very sneaky now at this point about what is real delay compensation now, because it's so murky. For many years, as exemplified by hit scan systems, what delay compensation means is that when I, on my system, start at a point
head for target location
and run to here, that was maybe like a second and a half. This would be like 3/4 of a second from here to here. That would be equivalent to about 750 milliseconds. On a standard fiber optic internet connection on Activision servers, this is on Activision's, where you're looking at approximately maybe 50 milliseconds of delay. That means that if I show up, okay, if I need to use a wall to do it. If I am not, if I'm right here on my system,
waypoint marked, move.
I run 1 second's distance to this cone. In that 1 second, if my delay to the other person is 50 milliseconds, 500 milliseconds, 250, 125, about 60. That would be about here. That is an optimal fiber optic internet connection. My delay would be right in this window. But if they are actually completely on point and see me, if they were standing right here, I'm going to ping that
Head
right
for
there.
target location.
If they're standing right there, I'm here on my system, and I'm running full speed over to here. As I go past this door, this window right here, which is the absolute minimal delay to them, if they were standing right here watching me, their position will already be stored and updated to me, if they are already standing there. And when I run past this, I will see them as my system updates. But in order for me to update to them, took from here to here. So the moment I get... Okay. This is confusing to anybody. On my system, I'm right here. I'm taking a 1 second run to this cone. The delay to the other person is about this far. They're already standing there. So as I come out of this and run across this delay window, at this point right here, there is a desync between the people. If I am on the short end of the desync delay, where I'm updating to the server, they are not even going to see me yet. At this point, I am still behind the door. As I move another set here, they are going to see me right about here. Now, this is where it becomes insanely confusing. Because at this point, if they are standing stationary and they are shooting right here, on their system, they are seeing me at this point right here. And as they shoot, the general premise of delay compensation is that they will get the kill. So, the point is that when you're talking about the internet, you know, when you're talking about the delays and all this stuff, what it's really going to boil down to is, sure, it's going to happen. It's impossible to avoid. But how detrimental is it? And this is why Infinity Ward and Modern Warfare just suck ass. It is a horrible game. I'm sorry, the game sucks. It's terrible. I am one of the people that the game is a miserable experience for. And the reason is that because they made it where you can literally be killed in this window of time. So, whatever. Warzone is much better because it has armor that will shield out a few of the shots. Cold War has definitively expanded the damage range where it masks all this. It makes it playable. And it's not about, I'm on the short side, you're on the long side, whatever. Because of what's called shooter's advantage. If you want a PhD level examination of what shooter's advantage means in a lag compensation online environment, it is available. And the Overwatch people are the people who can definitively explain from Blizzard Overwatch what this stuff is. What it means, at this point, I on my system do not see them. They don't see me. When I move here, they still don't see me, even though I will see them because they are stationary. When I move to here, they will see me at this position and point in time. If I was slow on the ball, they will be beating me with gunshots from here to here. This little 50 millisecond delay window determines, it basically it is the barometer for how damaging lag compensation is. Because shooter's advantage is based on the premise that if we don't give the battle to the person seeing what they see, they will hate our game. If I see someone right here on my screen and I shoot them, and on their system they have already moved but I can't see it yet, it becomes a frustrating, unpredictable experience that was deemed to be unacceptable in any commercial environment. And so it's called shooter's advantage. That means that when I see them, even if they have moved, which would be fair, I get an unfair kill on them for aiming at a previous position and time window. So in a time window that I'm seeing from here to here, when they're actually from here to here, I get the kill. And that window, even on a fiber optic perfect high frequency refresh server connection on this game, is on a super high frequency server, is about in here. Now, people are going to be like, well, I have gun battles all the time where I'm like right here and they see me. That's because you aren't running from here to here. You cannot override the math on an internet delay and a ping and a server refresh rate. They do some stuff that has to do with what are called extrapolated positions to try to keep up with it, but that still basically means nothing. This is the window. Okay, so if they're stationary right there, I'm here, I move out, they don't see me yet, I'm here, they see me back here, they begin shooting. That 60 millisecond window is, in Modern Warfare, nearly the time to kill on headshots of miniguns. It is nearly half the time to kill on virtually every gun, a third time to kill on nearly all the guns. So when you were here, as you move and finally show up here, when they start shooting, if they're hitting their shots, you are going to be dead to a third dead by the time you get here, and you aren't even where they're aiming. It's horrible. This game has twice easily normally the time to kill, which means that when you're here to here, it's like a half to a third to a quarter of any time that they could possibly kill you. It's like getting hit by stray bullets. And I just cannot effectively. It's like being hit by a few stray bullets. So that it's not even a few, a stray bullet. It's like being hit by a stray bullet. So that by the time you're here, when a stray bullet hits over here, it's a quarter maybe of any effective damage. And that gives you time to then reevaluate. The confusing thing is then what happens when I move around this corner and they move out from this corner. If neither of us is visible, I move here, I'm still here on their screen. They moved there from here to here. They haven't even updated me yet. At this point, I am looking at an empty spot. They're looking at an empty spot. Both of us in this scenario, on a 60 millisecond fiber optic ping, are looking at empty spots on each other's screen. Maybe I have a sixth sense, and I start shooting. What's going to happen? Well, this is where they're being very murky about what's happening. Because in any traditional system, there should not be any hit happening here because there's no one visible on my screen. And there is some evidence that they are really muddying everything between the positions and update rates. But I will say this, Cold War is by far, I think this is the best Call of Duty I have ever played as far as the way they've worked this out. It's incredible. It may look kind of rough sometimes, but that is because people aren't familiar with what's happening. So, at this point, if I move here and they move there and we're looking at two empty screens, that means that by the time I end up here, I'm going to see them way behind where they are, and they're going to see me way behind where I am, and we're essentially having a battle of strafing a body's width out of sync. So whatever. That's what's going on with it. Anybody who's ever played, who sees all the stuff, that's what's happening over the internet. That's even on a good connection, and does not involve 3-4 person interactions in conjunction. So you basically just, you do the best you can with it, try your best, try to keep up, but again, on a real playing level, you need to work out this aim right here and your sensitivity and controls on hipfire. You need to be able to move, shoot, and what I'm going to do is I will do this myself here for the end of this little video. I'm going to set it up with some bots, with a submachine gun with tight hipfire, and some lasers, and just run around with the hipfire.
domination. Capture the objective.
Not today, buddy.
Enemy has C. Enemy has A. We are being dominated. Get aggressive.
I may have to turn this down from the 3. It's really hard to do this on this map.
One by.
Taking Alpha.
Enemy appears KIA.
Alpha lockdown.
That destroyed.
A.
Hostile down.
It's not over. Regroup, fight back. We are being dominated. Take those positions. Securing Charlie. Half time.
Wasted him.
Switching sides. Secure the objective. Taking C. Enemy took A. C lockdown. Losing Charlie.
trophy system down. Operation.
Don't think there's much more that I can do in that fight. Clearly see on the kill cam that I hit the guy first with my bullets. There's just absolutely no way to do it in this frickin'...
Confirming kill.
Alpha secure.
Throwing incendiary.
Taking Bravo. Our location's locked down. Dig in.
Commence
hold
spy
them.
plane mission.
Spy plane in the turn. Mission timeline in.
He's gone.
Spy plane MTL 50%.
Assault pack, who needs ammo?
Oh, come on.
Spy plane exiting mission area. Bye.
No! Oh, this damn hog.
Losing A. We lost Alpha.
What? Oh, you gotta be kidding me. What the hell was that?
Taking A. All locations secured. Hold your positions.
Combat foe eliminated.
We're in the lead. Losing B.
Enemy moving to combat. Archer shut down. kill.
Care package on standby.
Losing Bravo. Mission goals are in sight.
Hostile removed.
Bring this home. Zagut, victory is ours.
That outcome was
Okay.
never in doubt.
I have no idea why the bots just decided to stand there at the end. They never do that. It's like 5 in the morning. That was absolutely
Add the
horrible.
requesting spy plane on
But
grid.
whatever. The point is, if you go in and practice getting your aim on point with the hip fire and getting your tactical stuff around, if you get if you learn how to move, position, play without any of the ADS stuff and just on the hip fire, it will get. And I'm not talking about doing this forever. I'm talking about just a round or two. Practice and get your controller and whatever you're using to sensitivity that matches. And I'm sorry, that was just a terrible demonstration because it's like 5 in the morning. But first off, it's 5 in the morning. Second, I don't have my Astro controller or my Elite controller. I'm playing with a DualShock. Whatever. It makes a big difference. But in an hour, I would be exactly on point. Use it to get your settings, get used to it, and then add your ADS stuff and notice the guns and the ADS, the barrels and things. Okay, I gotta take a break.